that we're kind of in a lot of trouble, and I hope it doesn't escalate. I hope it doesn't get to the point when we're actually sending troops to physically fight against the Russians in Ukraine, but it seems like that's going to be the case at this point if we keep going on this trajectory. So we had today, in fact, just a few hours ago, Biden has announced that he's activating troops to go to Ukraine, essentially, and to at least defend parts of Europe, right in Eastern Europe, by Ukraine, and activate military that will participate more in the NATO operations there. So specifically, this is called Operation Atlantic Resolve, and I'll read out of this article here, and we'll go over the escalation. This is a big announcement. This is huge. This is also a huge mistake. One of the most heinous things imaginable is war, and it seems to always be the politicians that have never seen war or experienced war or have family that has experienced war that are so readily quick to send us to war because they don't understand the true nature of it. And at this point, there's probably already special operations going on like Black Ops, with U.S. military personnel in Ukraine, helping Ukraine. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's already been reported on. But it isn't public. It isn't large scale yet. We're going to go over the fact that Ukraine is majorly losing the war. So we'll take a look at that really quick too, and I think that's why this is escalating so quickly. We'll also we'll look at the munitions, cluster munitions that the U.S. has been sending there, which obviously is a war crime. Jen Psaki herself called it a war crime about a year ago. So they're just caught foot and mouth at this point, and it's very typical of the Biden administration to just screw up over and over again, and be the hypocrites that they are. This is just what they do. So we'll talk about that in a second, and we'll read into this this article here describing, the deployment of the activation of troops in Eastern Europe to essentially help with the Ukraine situation and NATO. So I just want to say hello to everybody in the chat. What's going on? Yeah. Also, so I have Power Chat Live, which you'll see in the description below if you want to leave a super chat. You can also leave a super chat in YouTube, but Power Chat Live is actually a little better because it only takes like 7% or 5% or something like that of your super chat. So I'll read the Power Chats and super chats throughout the stream. Also, give this video a good thumbs up and give it a share if you like the content here. And also, if you want to subscribe on Twitter and on Gab, follow me over there. The links for that in the description below. This is also streaming on Rumble and Odyssey too. So we're multi-streaming, guys. We're doing it big. This is what we do here at Resisting the Reset nowadays, I guess, So, hello, Rusty James, Uncle Paranoia, hello. Yeah, everybody in the chat. Tom McGovern said before the stream, he says, this better be good. Like, what an entitled thing to say. Like, what if it's not? What are you going to do? Just turn it off then if you don't like it. Anyway, so, yeah, all right, so let's read into this really quick. The Department of Defense this afternoon announced the Biden administration issued an executive order activating military reserves as fighting is severe in the Ukraine with Russia. Yeah, severe. They're getting their asses whooped, dude. They're getting their asses whooped, and it's so funny to see some of the media, and it's really not funny, honestly, but it is kind of funny to see the media like twist and turn and lie about this and try to bumble and stumble just like their protege Joe Biden, trying to justify this idea that Ukraine's actually winning, and it's just very, very obvious that they're not. But anyway, it's 100% confirmed at this point. Anybody looking at it with at least a somewhat critical, reasonable eye, it's unbelievable. So, according to Lieutenant General Douglas A. Sims II, Joint Staff Director of Operations, this executive order reaffirms the unwavering support and commitment to defend NATO's eastern flank in the wake of Russia's illegal and unprovoked war in Ukraine. EUCOM, the Joint Command of our military in Europe, downplayed the mobilization by stating that the new authority to activate the reserves will be useful in keeping the U.S. commitment to NATO's collective security. The executive order mentions the Ukraine war indirectly by stating that the activated reservists will be used for Operation Atlantic Resolve. That operation, though not officially named until now, is specifically in response to the Russia-Ukraine war and has been active, so to speak, since the original 2014 Russia invasion of Ukraine. This executive order is the first official governmental designation of Operation Atlantic Resolve. So mask is off again, and this is why they announced the cluster munitions too. They're probably already using them, guys. It's just mask is off, and they're sending probably a lot more cluster munitions at this point. I don't know if that's confirmed, if they were already using them, but now, I mean, it's just admitted. Yeah, we're sending the cluster munitions to Ukraine. These are, of course, illegal. It's a war crime. Jen Psaki herself, Biden's old press secretary, said that if Russia used them, that they would be a war crime. And now, a year later, the Biden administration is sending them to Ukraine to use against Russia, committing in the exact war crime they were accusing Russia of doing, or threatening Russia that, oh, we'll call you war criminals if you do this, and now they're doing it. Well, there you go. And so, yeah, active duty troops, and it's really interesting, this Operation Atlantic Resolve, with NATO troops in Eastern Europe basically helping out with that Ukraine situation over there, right? Has been going on since 2014, since Russia annexed Crimea, and since the color revolution that Soros and some of these other globalist types, quote unquote, funded to oust Yanukovych back in 2014. Yeah, it's kind of funny how this has been going on for so long, and I'm sure people at that time that talked about Operation Atlantic Resolve were called conspiracy theorists, and now let's just mask off. Yeah, and by the way, we're activating troops and sending more troops over there for the U.S. So yeah, that sounds like a great thing, guys, right? Doesn't that just sound amazing? Oh boy. The executive order said, I hereby determine that it is necessary to augment the active armed forces of the United States for the effective conduct of Operation Atlantic Resolve in and around the United States European Command's area of responsibility. Biden's order stated that their activation cannot exceed 3,000 total reservists, or which 450 can be from the individual ready reserve. Political guessed that the move suggests that the U.S. military's training mission in Europe, along with the deployment of several new brigades after the invasion, has stretched the active duty forces at a NATO summit in Lithuania this week. Member nations agreed to make 300,000 troops ready for rapid deployment. Oof, oof, oof. Yeah, it's just, I really hope this doesn't happen. This is really serious. And what this is really actually about on so many fronts is not only Russia, starting to win this war big time, but also the BRICS announcement, which I'll talk about. That's actually the real reason I think this war is going on, to be honest. That's one of the background issues that a lot of people are overlooking, and it's just it's really creepy. It's really creepy, this whole thing. It does remind you of a scenario that is sort of like a powder keg. I think it's Thucydides' trap or something like that, when one superpower starts waning and another superpower or group of nations that formulate a superpower starts rising up and taking the place of it. And that's what Russia, China, and others are doing. And Ukraine is just is sort of like a proxy for all this. It really is kind of crazy. And we'll get into the BRICS thing in a little bit, but that's a big one. That's a huge one, folks. I feel like is that a bot in the chat? I don't know, but it's funny. Sending me all these hearts and stuff and kisses. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, hello everybody. Yeah, I see Miss Maskless. Hello, hello. Not you. You're not a bot. I know you're not a bot. We asked Congressman August. This is in the article. We asked Congressman August Flugger for more details about any background briefings he has, and we'll report back when he responds. So here's like a photo. Soldiers from the 1st Battalion 37th Armored Regiment, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 1st Armored Division conduct rail operations of the unit's armored and wheeled vehicles in preparation for their upcoming rotation in Europe to support Operation Atlantic Resolve at Fort Bliss. It doesn't sound very blissful, does it? So there you go. Thousands of troops being activated and sent to Eastern Europe. U.S. troops. Boom. Very, very scary stuff, and it's freaky. And what I would do right now, all I know is like, I just like, I don't have any money or anything, so I'm just like, luckily I have a little gold and silver, and I have like a lot of guns and ammo, okay, and a lot of storable food, and I'm just like ready for whatever. Now I don't know if it's really gonna get like super hot or whatever. I do think you might see like a major false flag with chemical weapons. I think that would be the main thing, sort of like a Syria type operation, and just like copy and paste that, and put it here into the Ukraine-Russia situation. Give a pretext to send troops there openly in a massive way, rather than just like shady special ops and like sort of these quasi operations right on the borders in Eastern Europe. But the fact that Biden is activating troops and sending them there is a huge red flag that this is 100% escalating. And so let's talk about the cluster munitions. Biden to send thousands of cluster munitions to Ukraine, despite them being against U.S. law and banned in 120 countries, a year after Jen Psaki said using them would potentially be a war crime. So the fact that they're caught foot and mouth and they're this desperate, it just shows like this is what they're this desperate. So let's talk about this and read it. So, by the way, cluster munitions, if you don't know, the reason why they're banned and they're so deadly is because they're very harmful to civilians, because what they do is like a giant missile with a bunch of other bombs that explode out of it. When you send it and it drops, it like explodes and a bunch of other bombs come out, and then those cluster bombs all explode. But sometimes, in fact often, some of them don't explode. There's a lot of duds that actually aren't really duds. They're just like sleepers, and they end up staying there in that area, and like 10 years later, a farmer is plowing over it and it explodes on them and it kills a lot of civilians. That's the problem. Not just 10 years later, it could be a couple days later, like a civilian will be walking down the street or something and like a cluster bomb in the sewer or something, explodes. And that's the problem with these things. They kill a lot of civilians accidentally afterward. And this is why they're like a war crime, dude. And like, this is why I think these people are evil. They can't figure out, like, if you really want to help Ukraine, like if you really want to, exert your global hegemony, you're the U.S. Department of Defense in the Biden administration or whatever. Like, why would you do something that hurts civilians more and that the entire world, including the U.S., considers it a war crime? Why not just like send them more? I mean, I don't think they should do anything like that. We've already sent billions of dollars over there of my tax money, and I'm really pissed off about that. Okay, that's why we saw so much inflation. That's why rates are going up, and the economy's probably going to crash because of all of our tax dollars just being thrown away to countries that we have nothing to do with. But my point is, like, if they're going to send anything over there, if they're going to send any munitions or bombs or something, like, why cluster munitions? I don't know. Like, it's just, maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I don't know about military tactics. I don't know. I think I know a little bit about that. Like, it's always been something that's interested me. I'm trying to look at the chat here. This thing's my way. I have this like new like screen TV thing. It's actually pretty freaking sweet, but my desk is like in the way, so I might have to like turn it a little bit here. Let me see, or just go like this. What am I looking like here? Can you guys see me? Hold on. Yeah, we're good. All right. So I'm a little bit, but we're good. Yeah, man, it's just bad. It's bad. I see y'all in there. Thank you. There's too many. I can't read through them. We'll have to do it later. We got the power chats too. Let me see if anyone put a power chat in there. No, we're good for now. But yeah, so this is like let's just look at the cluster munition situation, because it's like, man. All right. The White House has since December been weighing up providing cluster munitions to Ukraine to help them in their war against the Russian invasion. And you know, by the way, you see this in the media all the time, that like it's a myth that Russia is crushing, that Russia is absolutely winning the war. That's a myth, guys, right? In the media, you'll see that all the time. But why are we like sending them anything if they're just crushing? If Ukraine's crushing and they're winning and Russia isn't, right? If that's the truth, why do we need to send them cluster munitions? Why does Biden need to activate thousands of troops and send them to Eastern Europe to help NATO over there? Like, why is all this going on? Why are hundreds of billions of your tax dollars going to Ukraine if Russia is just getting crushed by the Ukrainian Azov battalion members, right? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. The weapons are known to cause grievous injury to civilians, especially children. They are banned in more than 100 countries, but not the U.S. and Ukraine. 5 days into the war, Biden's then press secretary, Jen Psaki, responded to reports of Russia using cluster munitions and accused them of war crimes. Sick. Sick. I mean, it really is sick. It really makes me like. And it's true that these cluster munitions are really harmful to all civilians that are affected by this, but then children, because like kids are very curious, right? They sometimes might come up to these things that haven't exploded and just man. So let's just watch this video of Jen Psaki, everyone's favorite redhead.
There are reports of illegal cluster bombs and vacuum bombs being used by the Russians. If that's true, what is the next step of this administration, and is there a red line for how much violence will be tolerated against civilians in this manner that's illegal and potentially a war crime?
This is her being asked about Russia using cluster munitions, or the potential of Russia using cluster munitions, and this is what she says.
It would be. I don't have any confirmation of that. We have seen the reports. If that were true, it would potentially be a war crime. Obviously, there are a range of international fora that would assess that. So certainly we would look to that to be a part of that conversation.
A range of international fora to assess whether or not it would be a war crime for Russia to use cluster munitions. And now we are sending cluster munitions to Ukraine to fight Russia. Like, you just, it's like something, but you're supposed to forget that. Have you ever read 1984? Like, we are at war with East Asia, now we're at war with Oceania, now we're at war with Eurasia, right? You're supposed to forget about what was going on a year ago, and that gets memory hold, and that's what Winston did. He would memory hole, like, stories from before that you're not supposed to know anymore. You're not supposed to remember that happened, right? And that's what this is. You're not supposed to remember that Jen Psaki called exactly, the Biden administration called exactly what they're now doing a war crime a year ago. You're just not supposed to remember that, guys. Be a good little peasant. There's nothing wrong with being a peasant, by the way. But I'm saying, they want you to be brainwashed peasants, okay? We're all kind of peasants. It's fine. But anyways, yeah, so the countries shown in white have not signed the convention banning the production and use of cluster munitions, bombs which explode and disperse bomblets, like baby bombs. Isn't that cute? Which frequently injure and kill civilians and children. So the countries in purple have essentially banned cluster munitions, and obviously, like pretty much all of Europe, Australia, Canada, Mexico, parts of Africa. You know, it's just a reminder that a lot of the politicians, and then even those like the brass, like in some of these departments like the DOD, and I'm sure some of Biden's advisors, a lot of them are detached. The career politicians, career military guys, you know, they're detached from what real war looks like, and that's why it's so disgusting, the whole thing. I was listening to an interview with RFK Jr. recently, and he would talk about how his uncle, obviously JFK, when he was president, one of his main initiatives was to end war and form peace with the Russians and with all nations. He wanted literally peace on earth, and like that was part of his mission as president, was to end the Cold War and end a lot of these proxy wars going on. And obviously the military-industrial complex didn't like that, and a lot of the intelligence agencies didn't like that, so they took out JFK, amongst other reasons. But, you know, the whole point is, right, like, JFK fought in the military and fought in war, right? He was like a war hero. And so, like, a lot of guys in his administration at that time, too, and during that time, the 60s and stuff, saw war, and they knew what it was like. And they knew that they didn't want war. They knew how bad war actually is. And what you have in the White House now, and I even think, and I don't want to speak for everybody, obviously, in the military at the high levels. I'm sure there's some of those like guys that maybe like were heroes in you know, I don't know, the Gulf War or something, or Afghanistan. I get it. You know, I really do, because I have a lot of veteran friends, and, you know, you fought for the country. Maybe some of you are heroes. I get it. But the whole point is, some of these guys, some of these military guys that are just like career politicians and military people are detached from like real full scale, like massive war. And you know, these are they're basically a bunch of LARPers, you know, especially the politicians. I mean, hands down, the politicians that send these people to war, that send troops to war, right? They're the ones ultimately in charge. Guys like Biden, right? And many in Congress that are just constant war hawks, like Lindsey Graham. Scum. And, you know, others that are just like foaming at the mouth to like murder Russians and send like cluster munitions to, you know, their Ukrainian proxies, their Azov battalion, you know, white supremacist like fighters. Yeah, a lot of these guys are detached, and a lot of them are LARPers, and they are basically just total posers, right? They're not tough guys, right? They're not tough guys. You could never send them to war or their family to war. They wouldn't want that, right? They'd be scared shitless. They'd be crapping their pants. But no, yeah, just sign off on the cluster munitions and kill a bunch of Russian kids and civilians. Yeah, all good. Sick. These people are sick. Anyway, so let's moving on here. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was among the last holdouts against the idea, but he has reluctantly agreed the weapons are essential to help Ukraine win the war. Oh, really? I thought Ukraine was already winning the war. I thought Russia was losing. I thought that was a conspiracy theorist that Russia was winning the war. A conspiracy theory. The White House had hoped that Ukraine's summer offensive would be so successful they would no longer be needed. But Vladimir Zelensky has argued cluster munitions are the best way to kill Russians who are dug into trenches and blocking Ukraine's counteroffensive to retake territory. The decision is likely to face sharp criticism from U.S. allies, which are opposed to their use. Cluster munitions are banned in almost all of Western Europe, every Central American country, and most of sub-Saharan Africa. In the 1980s, the Russians made heavy use of cluster bombs during their 10-year invasion of Afghanistan. As a result of decades of war, the Afghan countryside remains one of the most heavily mined countries in the world. The United States has used cluster munitions in every major war since Korea, but no new ones are believed to have been produced for years. The U.S. last used its cluster munitions in battle in Iraq in 2003 and decided not to continue using them as the conflict shifted to more urban environments with more dense civilian populations. As more as 4.7 million cluster shells, rockets, missiles, bombs containing more than 500 million submunitions, 500 million submunitions, or bomblets, remain in military inventories according to estimates by Human Rights Watch drawn from Department Defense reports, right? The United States will now have to carefully assess the dud rate of the munitions they plan to send. Some of their existing cluster munitions have a dangerously high rate, meaning that they do not explode, and so lie on the ground until someone, often a civilian, stumbles on them. The Washington Post reported on Thursday that the standard 1% dud rate level would be overruled, meaning that munitions with a higher likelihood of malfunctioning can be sent to Ukraine given the demand and urgency. Critics said the decision would cost lives. Yeah, so very, very creepy, very, very sad, very sad. I mean, it really is. But, you know, you see this lie all the time. You see this lie. Look, so if you just, if you type in Russia winning Ukraine war, right? If you just type that into Google, I use the Brave browser, but it doesn't really matter which one you use. Yeah, you'll see various articles that basically go on to say that Russia isn't winning the Ukraine war. And then, but, you know, every now and again, you'll get an opinion piece like this one out of Bloomberg that says, Putin may win Ukraine, but the real war is just starting. Isn't that comforting? Isn't that comforting, guys? The real war is just starting. Like, these people literally are pushing war on us. So, yeah, this is out of Bloomberg. Putin may win Ukraine. Yeah, well, we're admitting it. Okay, he might win. But the real war is just starting. Yeah, isn't that great? And this is actually written quite some time ago. But what happened essentially was this, right? When Putin first invaded Ukraine, he went in with a really small force because he figured that if he were to do this, that many people in Ukraine and Zelensky and others would just surrender, right? And or there would be a move by the U.S. and NATO and Ukraine to set up talks, right? Set up some sort of negotiation, because really this is all about the Donbass region and Crimea, because obviously you know the whole story behind it. Obviously a lot of the people in that area of Ukraine are Russian, speak Russian. Russia also needs it for a warm water port and access to, I believe it's the Black Sea. And so their only warm water port, very, very important for them, like tactically. So they need that area of Ukraine. And then also a lot of the people there are pro-Russian, not all of them, but many of them are in the Donbass region, enough that Russia decided to invade. And also a lot of them were being mistreated by Azov members and like ultra-nationalist Ukraine people. That's part of the reason why he invaded too. So, but he was hoping with a small force, he'd go in and then he'd provoke negotiations essentially. But what happened was, okay, no, the U.S. said, oh, this is the worst thing ever, and we're going to basically give Ukraine a bunch of money and arms and stuff like that, and we're going to fight Russia. So Putin was like, okay. So what he started to do was slowly build up his forces, right? Because the initial invading force was almost like a not a Trojan horse. That's not the right word. No, it was almost like a just a like a move to say, like, we're dead serious here. We will invade if we don't get into negotiation talks about the Donbass region. But he's like, all right, I guess we're going to war. So he sends the real troops and much more of them, and starts building up the forces and logistics and all of this, and the personnel and the tanks and stuff like that, and the armored vehicles and the all of it. The artillery and stuff, and it takes a few months to do that, and they got to that point, and they built their forces up, and then they just started crushing, and now Ukraine is just getting absolutely demolished by all real analysts looking into it. Reports that is what's happening. In fact, a lot of them are losing. They're losing. What do you call it? Their will to fight, and many of them are surrendering on the Ukraine side. You have this video I want to show you guys. What Russia was actually doing is they were sending drones over to the Ukraine side, where their troops were and stuff, and they would drop pamphlets with instructions on how to surrender without being killed. So what they would do is they would send some artillery, some mortar shells and stuff into an area where there were a lot of presumably Ukrainian troops, and then after they did that, and softened them up a bit, so to speak, pretty sick stuff, but this is war, right? And so then after that, they would send these drones with the pamphlets, like, this is how you, like, I know, like, nobody wants this, so why don't you just surrender? Here's the instructions how to surrender, and all of this. So if you want to look at the screen here, we have, obviously it's going to be in Russian, but you'll see subtitles here of like a Russian platoon doing this.
Находимся в лесополосе, в серой зоне. Отправили закрепиться и ждать подхода других. Другую группу накрыли на подходе, они не прошли. Вы тоже накрыли. У нас 5-300.
So let me read it to you guys, actually.
Мы со 128-й бригады. Вы нас...
You dropped paper flyers onto us. This is a Ukrainian sergeant on the line with this frequency. We're 8 people. We're in the wood strip, gray zone. We got spent to dig in and wait for others. The other group was hit while approaching. They did not make it. You hit us and them. We have 5 wounded, 2 heavy wounded. You'll hit us with artillery. We're caught here. We surrender. You copy? Where and which wood strip are you? And he's asking where he is. He's trying to describe where they are for the surrender. He's saying you just shot mortars at us 20 minutes ago and then dropped these leaflets. He's like, don't do anything, don't open fire. Yeah. So you get the message there. Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff, man. It's pretty crazy. You got to remember, again, like, on both sides. Yeah. There's obviously some Ukrainians and some Russians that hate each other, but there's many that don't. And in many areas, these people really come from the same stock. Remember, Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union, and some of them hate the Soviet Union. Hate Russia because of what the Soviet Union did to them, but others also have like a connection to it. It's a complicated thing, I'm sure. Let me see here. I'm just checking out everyone in the chat. What's good? Oh yeah, this is too many here, guys. I can't read them. Yeah, man, it's I don't know, it's pretty wild. But hello everyone. I see you. I see y'all. Billy Bird, Scott. Yeah, a nightmare for archaeologists, right? Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine like 1,000 years from now. I don't know if these cluster munitions will still be active by then, but it's. I hope not. Obviously, I hope nobody uses them. I hope somebody figures out to like not do this. There's got to be a better way to. I don't even think. I think we just should obviously stay out of it. But if we're going to be sending anything to Ukraine, why cluster munitions that will kill innocent like civilians, Russian children, and stuff like that? That's just awful. That is so sick, and like. I mean, these people are so detached from reality. They're detached from reality. They're decadent. Our leaders are decadent. They're corrupt. This is the fall of our republic in so many ways. It reeks of that in so many ways. You see Biden, he cannot even talk or walk. It's just a walking symbol of what is happening to our civilization. He's like a meme, like an inverted parody of our country, and it makes me so sad. It really does. And I put out a video like a week ago. And I hurt a lot of people's feelings. I get it. I had to argue with some people in the comments. It hurt a lot of people's feelings. And this is going to hurt a lot of people's feelings. But America is kind of finished. And I'm not saying it can't be resurrected per se. I think I do have a little hope that it can. But I think at least as it was, it's finished. The good old boy, 13 stripe flag, with the 50 stars. And we're one country. With 50 states and all of this, and I still feel like a huge, like a connection to this land and to the people in this country. But I feel like the country as a almost like a corporate entity, or even just as an entity in and of itself, is just completely done. I don't think it has a future. I think the future of America is much like the Republic of Rome after the fall of Rome, where you had like a tetrarchy or whatever it was, where like Rome, the Roman Empire actually like split up into 4 sectors. I think that's sort of what you're going to see in the U.S., where it's not like completely over per se, but it's not going to be like it ever was. Even if there is a revival of American spirit, something like I don't know, like what you saw with the 2016 Trump election, with like this almost like a nationalism revitalization. I don't even think that's going to happen in the same way that it could in 2016 at this point. It's going to be different. It's going to be split up in many different ways, and you're going to see a lot more regionalism. And you're going to see like a revival in Christ, hopefully, to at least get right with God. But the country as a whole, like the 50 states as it was, the good old boy, I still have I have a nostalgia for it. Like I think about America like in the 80s or in the 90s. And throughout the 20th century, really, and I still have a nostalgia for it, but it's done. We have to move on. This is the only way to actually build something better and new, and not get lost in nostalgia. That's very unhealthy. So, along with all of this, throughout the past few months, with the escalation of the war, since Russia is now just absolutely crushing, which is too bad for Ukraine, really. You had multiple things like this. I don't even know what like a coup attempt, right? With Prigozhin and the Wagner Group, which a lot of people speculated there was some sort of like underground deal between like Black Ops, like United States forces or something like that, or the CIA or MI6 or something like that to get Prigozhin to attempt a coup to oust Putin, because if Russia is winning the war, well then one of the good things that you could do if you're a military strategist is well let's just start a coup in that country's government and try to oust the guy in charge. That will weaken them. That could end the war, right? But that failed, right? Ultimately, Prigozhin failed, and the Wagner coup attempt in Russia failed. And there are those saying now that Prigozhin could be even dead or in jail at this point, and this is after only a couple weeks. It was a really short coup attempt. It looked like it could be successful, but within about 24 hours, it ended, and they supposedly, had talks, Prigozhin and Putin, and now there are some saying that Prigozhin is dead or in jail, but we don't actually know, right? I don't know if there was like a deal made between him and Putin. We don't know because, again, there is a lot of there isn't that much transparency over there in Russia. But we had these sort of things that seem like desperate attempts by covert operations, perhaps to engage or topple Putin in a different way besides just giving arms and munitions and stuff to Ukraine. It didn't work. And then we saw before that. And this continues to be a talking point. The U.S. warns Russia could use chemical weapons in false flag operation in Ukraine. It's headlines like this. What they're doing is they're testing the waters and data mining, something like this, to see if, a narrative like this would give them enough justification, not only in mid-level areas of government, but amongst the public and media, if it would give them enough justification to actually send physical troops to Ukraine openly in a massive way. And sort of they did this with Syria back in the day, and it was effective at first, but then a lot of information came out that put questions into that narrative of like these chemical attacks on civilians and stuff that Assad was supposedly engaging in. There were a lot of questions around that narrative that they were pushing, and that event, right? That story, right? There was all these stories about chemical weapons being used in Syria, and it ultimately wasn't really enough to really pull the trigger and send a massive amount of troops to Syria. So, they roll this out. They figured the first part of this propaganda campaign with all of the Ukraine flags and all of this in people's profile pictures, and everybody sharing the Ukraine flag. I still see them waving the flags of foreign countries here in the United States. This is another telltale sign that the U.S. is done, by the way, when they're waving the flags of foreign countries. Like so-called patriots and so-called right-wingers and stuff like this are waving the Ukraine flag. Like, I thought we were Americans, right? Why are we waving the flags of other countries? It's like the same thing with like Israel. They'll be like, oh yeah, we're dual citizens of Israel. I'm Ben Shapiro. I am the ultra-American nationalist who is a dual citizen of Israel, and basically just advocates to send all the money to Israel or whatever. So it's like, well, I thought we were America first, right? I thought this was like an American endeavor, right? I thought we all agreed that we were actually like in it to win it for America, not for Ukraine, not for all these other countries that we're going to wave flags to and have dual citizenship with. That doesn't make any sense. But anyways, so they figured the propaganda was very effective at first, so why not roll this narrative out? U.S. warns Russia could use chemical weapons in false flag operation in Ukraine. And at the same time this came out, what do we have? We had Putin saying the same exact thing about Zelensky and the U.S., right? There's going to be a false flag operation of chemical weapons. And they're going to, Russia was saying, oh, yeah, Ukraine's going to commit this false flag and blame us. And then the U.S. said the same thing about Russia. It's like, dude. And then you had this. I don't know if you guys remember this. Russia says Ukraine plans to detonate a dirty bomb, and vice versa. We had Ukraine saying Russia planned to detonate a dirty bomb. Just pointing fingers. And I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens. And it's like that meme with the Spider-Man. Everybody, like, it's a bunch of different Spider-Mans dressed in a Spider-Man suit, and they're all pointing the finger at each other in a circle, you know? That's basically what this is. Constantly, like, they're just testing the waters for this. Like, what would happen? And, here's the thing. In this age of information, one of the perks about it, one of the good things, is that, it's really hard for government institutions and governments in general and mainstream media and legacy media and stuff to keep a secret, right? If they put out a certain narrative, there's so much information to show it's a lie if it is a lie, right? So the information available is just, obviously it's overwhelming at this point, but, that's the good thing about the internet. That's the one good thing. It's sort of bringing all of that was in the shadows, bringing it to light. So it's really tough for them to lie nowadays. And this is why they haven't pulled the trigger on one of these major false flags that they're going to blame on the other guy, whether it's Putin or the U.S. or Zelensky or whoever. It's really hard to pull a false flag nowadays. It gets exposed very, very quickly. It doesn't really matter which side engages in it. So it's like one of those things that's like a thing of the past almost. This is why it's like, I don't really cover the false flag thing anymore. It's like they're not really. It's really hard for them to stage false flags nowadays. It's much more difficult than it used to be. So yeah, let me see if there's any power chats here. Yeah, anyway, so what is this really about, guys? Let's talk about what this is really about. And I'm sorry if this isn't showing the chat overlay. Is this showing the chat overlay, you guys? Let me see. Oh, it is. Okay. I think we're good. I hope. If not, well then, oh well. You don't get to see your own chats on the screen. You what do you call it? You narcissists. You want to see your own chats on the screen? Just go to the screen. You don't have to see it on the screen itself. Anyways, yeah. I mean, it's just like it's a big giant circle jerk of like pointing fingers, guys. But what is this really about, right? Oh, wait a minute. What's this, guys? Hold up. What's this? Gold standard is back. BRICS to introduce gold-backed reserve currency. Uh-oh. What's this? This is what it's all about, right? In a huge way. Now, oh man, this is such a rabbit hole. It's crazy. It's funny because I remember when the announcement of BRICS first was announced, it was so long ago. This is like 2011, guys. This is back in the old school truther days. You guys remember this? Back when YouTube was the Wild West. Oof, those were the good old days. I remember it was also back where I could like pull up a video on YouTube and it would load and save into the web browser, and then I could disconnect from the internet and watch it later. You can't do that anymore. Man, those were the good old days. They really were. I just wish that would come back. I will say this, BitChute is a little bit like that. A little bit like the good old days of YouTube, but there's so much crap on BitChute too. So much crap. But anyways, yeah, so BRICS, I remember this was first announced back in probably like 2011, and like it didn't come to a fruition until now. It took 10 years, or 12, I don't know exactly when it was. Maybe it was 2012, I don't know. But it took like 10, maybe a little more years. It might have even been announced before that, I don't know. But now it's announced. They're rolling this out in August, guys. They're rolling this out. And this is going to be a new world reserve currency that is going to challenge the U.S. petrodollar. And this is the biggest news of the year. Did you know that? You probably didn't even know that, did you? Yeah, that's because a lot of people just, a lot of people are just watching the mainstream media. They don't understand that there's a lot more to the world than just, Ukraine, vaccine, and, drag queen story hour or whatever. So let's check this out. A new gold-backed reserve currency. This is BRICS. BRICS stands for Brazil. What is it? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And in case you don't know, the U.S. petrodollar is very important in regards to our financial hegemony in the world. So part of the reason why we have such a high standard of living is because of the U.S. petrodollar. If any country wants to buy oil, they first have to convert their currency to dollars to buy that oil. Any country in the world, that's what they have to do. And that has strengthened our currency to a huge degree and raised our standard of living ever since the Bretton Woods Agreement back in I believe it was the late 40s or mid 50s, whatever, the past 60, 70 years or so. And that's been the case. So it's been a major advantage to not only the United States as a country, but the average American too. So I can't really say this is good news at all, right? And I am not necessarily for U.S. hegemonic power, but I am for a higher standard of living for me and my fellow Americans. And so the fact that BRICS is coming out and challenging that notion of the U.S. being the world reserve currency, the U.S. petrodollar, that's a big, big, big problem. And this is a huge reason why the U.S. is very quick to go to war right now with Russia. Because, it's going to be less of a funny money currency. Obviously, here in the U.S., our dollars are fiat. They're made, it's not backed by anything. It's leveraged to a huge degree. It's not, it's fake money, right? It's like monopoly money. The only reason it even has value is just because people consider it to have value in their minds. It's not attached to anything. Ideally, what it should be attached to is gold or a basket of real tangible assets, or at least a protocol, like a decentralized protocol, like Bitcoin, or something like that. But no, it's just funny money. So let's read into this a little bit. BRICS to announce their new world reserve currency to detach from the U.S. petrodollar. 41 countries have signed on to this. That's a huge deal, guys. And these are serious countries. This isn't. This is, man. We're in a lot of trouble. It's not good. Remember back when the Russia-Ukraine war had just started and I predicted that Russia and China would launch their own gold-backed currency? At that time, this idea sounded completely foreign and I was ridiculed for bringing it up. Today, it just became a reality. 41 plus countries look like they could be returning to the gold standard. And there you go, it's official. BRICS planning to introduce new trading currency backed by gold in August summit. Gold standard will be a great benefit to strengthening the currency. And it will. And most countries that aren't the U.S., if they're smart, will probably sign on to this because it's a more sound currency and less of a funny money, right? It's actually backed by gold. The images plastered all over RT this week had headlines like "New Money, New World," and "Gold Standard will be of great benefit to strengthening new single currency." The official announcement is expected to be made during the BRICS summit in August in South Africa. At first glance, a new transaction unit backed by gold sounds like good money, and it could be. First and foremost, a major challenge to the U.S. dollar's hegemony, Thorsten Polyet, chief economist at Dugosa, said. He continued, for making a new currency as good as gold, a truly sound currency, it must be converted into gold on demand. I am not sure whether this is what Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa have in mind. Using gold as money, the unit of account, would be a true game changer, no doubt about it. It could lead to a sharp devaluation of many fiat currencies because of the yellow metal. And it could catapult up goods prices in terms of fiat currencies. It could be a shock to the global fiat money system. I am not sure this is what BRICS wishes to achieve. So what these economists are basically saying is like, wait a minute, this is problematic, right? And the reason it's problematic is because this is such a more fair currency that's actually backed by real value, and it could disrupt the current global U.S. petrodollar system, and that's problematic, right? It could make it so that the U.S. fiat currency that isn't backed by anything, and all these other fiat currencies in the world that aren't backed by anything at all, it could all of a sudden make them basically worthless. And that's a problem because this is intrinsically better objectively. Like, well, yeah, that is a problem for us, but it's not a problem for those signing on to it, is it? Like, it's not a problem for Brazil, Russia, South Africa, and China, is it? I mean, like, if I were a country, just saying, if I were a country, which I'm not, but if I were, I would probably sign on to this instead of a fake monopoly dollar that's worth absolutely nothing. It's worth less than the paper it's written on, right? I don't know, just saying. Even more shocking than the announcement is the cavalier attitude the United States Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen appears to be taking to the news. In statements I can only describe as completely delusional, Yellen said this weekend, "I just want to reiterate what I've said in the past, which is I think the United States can rest assured that the dollar is going to play a dominant role in facilitating international transactions and serving as a reserve currency in the years ahead. I don't see that role being threatened by any development, including the ones that you've mentioned, BRICS common currency, for instance." That's one she's going to want to take back at some point, I'm certain. Right. Yes, I agree. Meanwhile, the announcement from BRICS is a key waypoint in a larger map of dethroning the US dollar as the world's reserve global currency. Not only does it solidify what we already know, that gold is real money, but it also the most pronounced public challenge to the US dollar on the global stage in recent memory. It's also a serious waypoint and a much larger map of U.S. de-dollarization that I laid out just a few months ago in a long multi-form interview. In that must-listen interview, my friend Andy Steckman told me, when you look at countries that have expressed interest in joining BRICS, they all have substantial gold holdings. The members are increasingly among those who want to join. There's over 60 countries they have lined up in a queue to join BRICS. Oof, man. That's not good. That's not good. Well, I don't know, guys. Yeah, and in the meantime, what's going on really on this side of the aisle, right? With the fiat money, they're trying to make it even more fiat and fake. And what are they doing to do that? Well, the Bank of International Settlements just did this report, and they're basically announcing a CBDC system. I've been talking about CBDCs now for years. I was way ahead of the curve on this. Of course, at the time, no one really cared about it. Everyone was talking about COVID back in 2020. I'm like, well, wait a minute, CBDCs, let's talk about this for a minute too. And everyone's like, no, let's talk about COVID. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But so we have this new report from the Bank of International Settlements. In case you don't know what or who the Bank of International Settlements is, it's basically the central bank for central banks. It is the top of the capstone of the pyramid, 100%. So it is the central bank of central banks. Like, you thought the Fed was powerful? The Bank of International Settlements is the most powerful, right? And in this report they put out, they talk about how, well, we'll just read this article, right? They basically talk about how they want to obviously digitize all money, not only in the United States, but all of the Anglosphere countries and Western countries and all of the central banks attached to the Bank of International Settlements. They want to have an interoperable system of central bank digital currencies in all the respective nations that are part of this Bank of International Settlements. And they want a programmable currency. We've talked about this before. But they also, what they've talked about in this report too, is they want all of these central bank digital currencies like the US, Canada, I mean, just all of them in the world, basically, almost, except for the BRICS, maybe, the BRICS countries, all of them to attach to one central global point and be interoperable in the Bank of International Settlements. This is the head of the snake, right? This is the head of the CBDC snake. They just put out this report. I might have to do a whole nother stream about this report because there's so much in it. But they talk about that, and they talk about tokenizing assets too. That's another huge theme where, like the title to your house, the title to your car, and just about anything, yeah, it's all going to be tokenized and put into this centralized blockchain of CBDCs and put in your digital wallet. And by the way, that can be shut off at a whim by the head of the snake here. That can be shut off at a whim if you're a political dissident. They're already doing that at banks, and it's not even centralized. So, kind of creepy, no? Kind of creepy, no? Yeah, man, it's just really weird. So let's look at this. So, as the BRICS challenge to U.S. hegemony is mounting, and the World War III is essentially starting over that in Ukraine, the U.S. and the U.S. powers, I guess, are announcing their CBDC, centralized digital currency. So let's look at this. This is out of the stack. The Bank for International Settlements, or Bank for Central Banks, says central bank digital currencies will be at the heart of the future monetary system in a landmark new chapter in its annual economic report, even if it warned of the deep structural inadequacies of decentralized cryptocurrencies. So what they're doing in this report partly is they're bashing decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that, and Cardano, and they're saying, these decentralized cryptocurrencies are no good because, well, they're not, we don't control them, and they're not centralized, right? We don't have full control over everybody's transactions. It's too decentralized. Deep structural inadequacies, they call it. Deep structural inadequacies, right? Isn't that a heck of a term, right? It goes on here. A monetary system based on central bank public goods using a digital version of sovereign currency as its foundation could foster innovation while safeguarding stability and security. Stability and security. Yes. That's how that's how we're going to roll this out. Stability and security. We'll have peace. It'll be safe. It'll be safe. Don't you all just want to be safe? We'll have a safe currency instead of that wacky, dangerous cryptocurrency and that wacky, dangerous gold-backed currencies. It's a blueprint for the future of the digital monetary system. Right. Deserves close attention. The Bank of International Settlements is owned by 63 central banks representing countries from around the world that account for 95% of world GDP and is an influential shaper of future central banking trends. It has assets of over $400 billion, takes deposits in currency and gold, and provides asset management, foreign exchange, and gold services to other central banks globally. In the report, the BIS pointed to a deep structural limitations that prevent DeFi and crypto from achieving the levels of efficiency, stability, or integrity required for an adequate monetary system. The crypto universe lacks a nominal anchor, which it ties to import imperfectly and through stablecoins. It is also prone to fragmentation, and its applications cannot scale without compromising security, as shown by their congestion and exorbitant fees. There are serious concerns about the role of unregulated intermediaries in the system. As they are deep-seated, these structural shortcomings are unlikely to be amenable to technical fixes alone. This is because they reflect the inherent limitations of a decentralized system built on permissionless blockchains. Yes, they really don't like this stuff, guys. They really don't, because nobody controls it. Nobody controls the DeFi, the crypto. It's all transparent, and you can see everything going on in the blockchain. So it's all, it's not like it's 100% transparent, right? There's nothing to hide, right? You can see all the code, how it's written, how the system works. With this, it would be a CBDC that's centralized, that's not permissionless, so you would need permission from basically the central bank to do anything, and that's also probably secret. You're not going to be able to see the code. It's not going to be transparent. Right? All secret, all hidden. The only thing you're going to be able to see is your wallet, your wallet balance in your phone, or maybe on your chip in your hand, right? The BIS argues that the future monetary system would be the fusion of new capabilities around the core of trust provided by the central bank. Oh, the trust. It'll be safe. And we need a trust. We need to have trust. The private sector will provide customer-facing activities with new functions such as the tokenization of money and financial instruments and instant retail payments through new interfaces. This combination could bring about lower cost, greater financial inclusion. Inclusion, guys, you hear that? I love that buzzword. Got to have the inclusion. Oh, yes, we got to have everybody included. We need to have a very special, warm-feeling word like inclusion in there. And diversity. Make sure that these central bank digital currencies that we can shut off at a whim and control what you purchase, make sure that these support the diversity of the West and inclusion. Make sure that the trans people are included. Because there is so much of a threat that the Bank of International Settlements and the Federal Reserve, with their FedNow CBDC project, I'm sure they're going to be transphobic in their rollout of this, right? They're going to single out the trans people. They're going to single out minorities, and they're not going to let them use the CBDC, right? Good thing we have an inclusive Bank of International Settlements regulating this. More user control over financial data, improved integrity, and seamless cross-border activity. Seamless cross-border activity. Yeah, the erasure of borders. Great. They used to talk about the Amero, the rollout of the Amero. I remember that was like a conspiracy theory back in like 2006. And the whole point of that was to make the North American Union. That was an idea they were floating out there, but it ended up not being successful. But that was partly what they wanted to do. They wanted to have the Atlantic corridor or whatever. They were building like a superhighway from Canada down to like Mexico. And then they were also trying to introduce, or in talks to introduce, something called the Amero, which at that time they didn't have the technology for a CBDC quite yet. Although that was the plan down the road, that it was like, yeah. But at first they were going to introduce it as an Amero, which is just like a North American single currency, and then erase the borders, of course, and you just have the North American Union. I remember that was a big thing, and they used to talk a lot about that. Within the few functions unlocked by wholesale CBDCs, one set of applications deserves special mention, namely those stemming from the tokenization of deposits. Yeah, that's a big one. And other forms of money that are represented on a permissioned DLT network. The role of intermediaries in settling transactions was one of the major advances in the history of money, tracing back to the role of public deposit banks in Europe in the early history of central banking. Bank deposits serve as the payment medium, as the intermediary debits the account of the payer and credits the account of the receiver. The tokenization of deposits takes this principle and translates the operation to DLT by creating a digital representation of deposits on the DLT platform and settling them in a decentralized manner. So, yeah, and they go on to talk about the Hamilton Project, which I've talked about, and that's a MIT research initiative for the American CBDC, which they're working hand in hand with the Boston Federal Reserve. So this is all being concocted in Massachusetts here in the U.S. for the rollout of the U.S. CBDC. And you know, the big thing here is out of this report, which there's so much detail in it. I mean, if you go into it, it talks about the tokenization of assets, which is a big one, like tokenizing your house, for instance. That's a good example, right? So instead of having the title for your house and it being physical, it would be tokenized on like a blockchain that's all connected basically to the Federal Reserve, right? That's basically your wallet will directly connect to the central bank, right? That'll be your centralized blockchain, which they could just shut that off or erase it at a whim. Be like, I don't know where it went. There's no record of you owning this house, right? And then that would even connect to the Bank of International Settlements, and there's your global world digital currency, mark of the beast, guys. This is what they want to roll out. Now, the challenge to this, of course, this is partly why they're going to war. This is why Biden just activated 3,000 military troops to be sent to Eastern Europe. Part of this is the fact that BRICS is rolling out the gold-backed reserve currency. I mean, and it's going to rival a lot of this. Now, will some of these nations part of BRICS have their gold-backed currency, and then that gold-backed currency will be somewhat digital? Probably, maybe. I mean, China already has basically a CBDC, right? So it's a little more complicated than that too, because a lot of these BRICS nations are probably going to have something similar, but at least theirs will be like backed by gold. And I'm sure they'll be able to shut off people's wallets at a whim and all that too. So, you know, the whole point is like anything digital, if you're going to have anything digital, it has to be decentralized and it has to be transparent and open source, although elements of it should be private too. But it has to be decentralized and it has to be provably decentralized, because if not, you'll have one single entity that will eventually abuse that power and just be able to do whatever it wants. And of course, with the whole climate change, stuff they're trying to push on people, this idea that, you know, we have to limit our consumption, right? Limit the carbon that we put out, whether it's, you know, what we breathe or, you know, the gas we put in our car or what we eat or, you know, things like this. You know, you're not allowed to eat meat, or if you are, only on your birthday, right? I've covered Forum for the Future, this like creepy dystopian nightmare film that they put out like in 2008, or was it 2009, that describes the future of society that they want. Like your jobs will be decided by AI. You'll have like a central bank digital currency, and the controllers of that will be able to monitor and ration what you buy and when, especially when it comes to food and gasoline and all of this stuff. And it's all for the earth, right? We don't worship. This is what they do. They don't worship Christ. This is the Antichrist system, guys. This is the Antichrist system, 100%. And this country needs to turn to God. We need a revival in Christ, and we need to wake up to this stuff, because when they roll this out, and they're going to roll this CBDC out probably really soon, when they roll this out, people will just do what they're told. So many people will just do what they're told, because if the economy completely crashes, let's say commercial real estate or something causes a like a domino effect, and then we're in World War III, people are going to be freaking out and looking to the government to save them. And when they roll out the CBDC, like, oh, your dollars aren't worth anything anymore. Well, guess what? We're just going to reset everything, and we're going to set you up with this app that you download right from the Federal Reserve, whatever it is. Or maybe they'll even do it at local banks at first and then wean the banks out. But either way, it will all connect to the Federal Reserve, right? Your digital wallet for your CBDC. Look, I know your money's worthless. I know we're at World War III. Everything's crashed. Inflation, hyperinflation. Guys, we got you covered. Look, we're going to reset it all. What we're going to do is we're going to have you download this app from fednow.com, whatever it is. President Biden, or whoever it is, will go up on the teleprompter on, CNN, and then also probably whatever live streaming site. It'll be streamed everywhere. Look, guys, we got it all under control. Here's the QR code to the app. Here's $1,000 in your account, and maybe they can have some sort of voucher system for the account that you had in your previous account with the previous paper dollars, and then you get your old money back, and then all of a sudden you also get an extra $1,000 for downloading the app, and now everybody's going to use this money, and that's it. And then people will just be like, okay, fixed, right? How quick will people? They're not going to question that. They're just going to be like, oh, well, I mean, our money's worthless. We're at war. Like, yeah, okay, let's say QR code, let's go. And then 5 years down the road, they're going to be like, it's way easier to just inject it into your, like, why wave your phone at the app? Isn't that so hard to do? Isn't that difficult, guys? Like, why not just be like, beep? They have those videos of people already doing it, in Sweden and other countries and stuff. Oh, I implanted a chip in me. Now I have my digital wallet attached to me like that, and I just go like this. It's like keyless entry in your truck or car. You don't even have to pull out your key to unlock the car anymore, right? You just keyless entry. It's like and people love it. I like keyless entry, but I ain't getting a chip in me, that's for sure. Anyways, guys. It's a strange world out there. It's a strange world. Let me check the power chats here. No, we got nothing. That's okay. All right, so BIS has a YouTube channel where all comments are blocked. Wonder why. Sounds like a great idea. Yeah, blah, blah. Really? It's no surprise they have all the comments blocked. That's from Second Horizon. PowerShare says, Tom is playing gatekeeper's role nowadays. Would Jeff be alive? He would expose his ass long time ago for playing along with left and right bullshit. I do not know what you're talking about there. Yeah, well, I don't think that's the case. Me and Jeff are like friends, so. And I am not playing a gatekeeper role, but okay. Rudhavan says, RTR we will all become a targeted individual under the AI beast system. Yeah, basically, yeah. Dude, like, we would have, like, creepy, like, AI bots. We already have this, guys. We already have this, like, stalking us. I have AI bots stalking me, creeping on me and all this. It's unbelievable. All right. Power share, you are banned. See ya. Scott says, dude, when I buy something, I use cash. So not only do I need to reach into my pocket, but I also need to count. Like, right? Oh, that's tough, man. That's tough. That's tough. I know. Second Horizon says, under the BRICS plan, only member nations will be able to convert other consortium currencies to gold, not private individuals, businesses, other countries. The devil is in the details. Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm saying if I were a country, like I'd want to be a member nation that could convert my currency to gold. I know obviously like private individuals and businesses wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, I know that. But it's still even if that's the case though, I still think it sounds like that would be like probably a more stable currency that would make more sense than backed by absolutely nothing. You know? John says Russia and Texas on the same anti-globalist team. I don't know about that, dude. But Texas gonna release gold-backed currency end of 2023, similar to JFK's silverback bucks that got him assassinated in the 60s. That is true that like JFK was looking into the silverback bucks, and part of the reason that he could have been assassinated. I do believe it was a conspiracy, but yeah. So I don't think Texas is on. I don't think that's happening, dude. Don't think that's happening. Rhea Timmerman says the government is attacking the Muslim immigrants now for not complying to the transgender education in Canadian schools. Yeah, this is why it's like, oh man. This is another reason why I'm not for U.S. global hegemony. I'm not in support of turning the entire world into a bunch of LGBT activists, right? The fake coup was to smoke out the closeted anti-Putin entourage members, just like the fake Trump DeSantis fiasco in the U.S. That's from John. The fake coup is to smoke out the That's a good theory. Yeah, I think that's very plausible. That was just like Putin working with Prigozhin. Yeah, again, this is just there's a lot of we don't know a lot of the background for that, like, or what was going on covertly, but that makes a lot of sense. That Putin like worked with Prigozhin to do that, to oust any moles or people who are anti-Putin within the Russian government. That makes a lot of sense. Tom McGovern says, I thought you were smarter than that. You actually believe any of these stories. I don't know if you're talking to me, but if you say stupid stuff again, I'm just going to start banning people. I don't care. I do not care. Yeah, you were the guy that said at the beginning, this better be good. You know what? I don't like that. You're going to get banned. Where are you? Banned. See ya. He says that before I even start the live stream, this dude says, Tom McGovern says, this better be good. Like, or else what, dude? Or else what, bro? Or else what? See ya, banned. Banned for life. Banned for life. Sam Corey says, I will look into getting some Texas state gold if I can. Hey, Tex, send them up here to the Amish country. Would you please? We will help you grow. Yes, man. If that's, I mean, I got to look into that. Is that a thing? I mean, like, is Texas coming out with gold money? I haven't heard about anything like that. So I don't know if that's. That's really, yeah. And are you in the Amish country, Sam Coyer? I love the Amish. I really do. I love Texas too. I've never been to Texas though, but I love Texas. I gotta go to Texas. I just went to California for the first time like a month or two ago. It was fun, but I mean, California gets a bad rap, but I think it was somebody that said recently, it was some guy, Warrior Poet, he's a gun YouTube channel. He said in a recent interview that there's no such thing as a blue state in the U.S., and I think that's actually true for the most part. All the states are actually red. It's the cities that are blue, and then all the surrounding areas are red. And it's just the states that tend to be more red are the ones that don't have as big of cities, right? There's less people in the cities, so they're more dominated per capita by a suburban and rural population, and that makes it a red state. It's the same thing with California. Like I went to California and I met so many cool people out there. I went to San Diego and went hiking. I did the potato chip rock thing. What's it called? Woodson Mountain or something like that. And I met a lot of cool people out there, and a lot of people that are not for some of these sick agendas being rolled out, like the LGBT nonsense and all that. So a lot of cool people in California, man. It's true. I mean, if you look at some of the the voting there and stuff, a lot of people, there's still like a third of or like even 40% of that state that are not for the creepy, degeneration of culture in everything in our country. Yeah, word, man. Amish country, Sam Corey, that's awesome. Yeah, Missouri Battleflex says the banning sucks. I'm banned at different places and don't think I should be. You got to have tough skin. Yeah, well, I'm just not in the mood, dude. So people are just getting banned if they usually I don't have usually that's not a problem in the chats here, but I got this dude, using the name of my dead friend Jeff to try to bash me in the chat, say Jeff would expose you. It's like total BS. Me and Jeff were buddies. We never had a problem the whole time. And then just trying to say that I'm like a gatekeeper with absolutely no rationale to back that up. Just because maybe I disagree with the guy on certain things, it's just And then this other dude starts that before I even start the stream, he goes, this better be good. I when I saw that put me in a bad mood. I'm like, this better what an entitled what a bratty thing to say. That's like a 12-year-old girl who's just totally spoiled. This better be good. Dude, no, you're just getting banned. And then he said something else later, oh, you're a gatekeeper. All right, banned. See ya. I don't care. I'm done. Oh, okay. Let me see. Angel Azrael sends a power chat. Let's check it out. Thank you so much, my friend. Great work, bro. Very informative info. That's from Angel Azrael 7. Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. I really do. The bug agenda didn't harm the Amish, dude. The Amish are crushing. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Sam Courier. So that's cool you live in Amish country. That really is cool. Rudovan says, I can never pronounce your name, dude. Rodhoven says, they actually have a liberal version of the Amish in Tennessee they can have landlines. That's interesting. Rhea Timmerman says, the only honest bank is the food bank. Well, you gotta have that food, man. You gotta have that food. I'm on carnivore again lately. It does give me more energy. I was off it for a while, but I am back on carnivore. So it's just to the butcher shop for me. Yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for stopping in. We're going to end the stream here, but I really do appreciate it. Again, yeah, if you want to help or support the channel, I have Patreon. You can become a Patreon member. I'll start doing like exclusive stuff on Patreon eventually too. I'm just trying to like get back into streaming more. But then I got obviously the power chats, which you can actually put in a power chat even after the stream ends, and I can read it on the next stream. Like if you do it in between streams, I could like start the stream off with your power chat. So that's kind of cool. Power chat's cool, and it's wicked easy to use, like super easy. Like just ask Angel Azrael there. It's like literally you don't even have to put in anything really. You just put in like a name if you want to, or keep it anonymous, and just say whatever. And what I'm gonna start doing, I'm gonna look into this. Y'all are gonna love this, right? With the power chats, I'm gonna set it up. Hopefully, if I can figure it out, there's a way to set it up that the power chat will be displayed like in big, obviously, letters on the screen, so you'll be able to see the power chat like right on the screen of the live stream, which is super cool. But also, I think they have a TTS function, like talk to text, which would be really funny, but I'm going to have to screen those a little bit because obviously I know some people will put in some talk to text that maybe can't be said on YouTube because it's just funny. But so you have to keep it at least somewhat clean, right? At least somewhat clean for the talk to text, because it'll just say it right out loud in like a robot voice or something, which would be really funny and cool. But so I got to figure that one out and all of that. But veggies and meat works too, cerebral Pisces, dude. Yeah, that works too. But I'm just on the meat. Like, cut out the veggies. See if you feel better. Anyways, yeah. So super chat function. I was just like closing out. Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah. Also, give this stream a thumbs up and share it, and subscribe if you haven't already. And you can follow me on Twitter and Gab too. This is also was streamed on Rumble and Odyssey. You can follow me on those platforms as well as YouTube. And then also I'm going to post this on BitChute after. So yeah, that is about it, guys. Pull this up.